What's good? Yo, it's been a while since we tapped in and had a conversation on some of these real insightful occult topics. So, I got some time. I'm in the gym today. I'm in the studio today. So, we're going to hang out and we can get into some of these insightful concepts while I just do a lot of things around the gym, do some stuff around the studio. You guys could be my company and we can study together. So without no further ado, we're going to get into some of this yoga studies with Swami Vivekananda. If y'all au fait with Swami Vivekananda, then you would have heard Panic speak about him. You would have heard Bobby Hemmett speak about him. You would have heard Phil Valentine mention Swami Vivekananda and a number of other scholars that are right now still around and still speaking and dropping gems. But guess what? Guess what? We're going to get right into the video right now and we're going to hear some of this insight so that we could widen our understanding because we're moving beyond the concept of gods. Excuse me, seems like the gym already starting to work in. But we're moving beyond the concepts of gods, moving beyond the concept of ancestors and all forms of alleged or so-called low magic, you understand? And we're moving into an understanding of our present divinity that might be a bit more established than the average folk. So let's get right into it.
And Pratima. Pratika means coming towards, nearing. In all countries, you find various grades of worship. In this country, for instance, there are people who worship images of saints. There are people who worship certain forms and symbols. Then there are people who worship different beings who are higher than men, and their number is increasing very rapidly. Worshippers of departed spirits. I read that there are something like 8 million of them here. Then there are other people who worship certain beings of a higher grade, angels, gods, and so forth. Bhakti Yoga does not condemn any one of these various grades, but they are all classed under one name, Pratika. These people are not worshipping God, but a Pratika, something which is near, a step towards God. This Pratika worship cannot lead us to salvation and freedom. It can only give us certain particular things for which we worship them. For instance, if a man worships his departed ancestors or departed friends, he may get certain powers or certain information from them. Any particular gift that is got from these objects of worship is called vidya, particular knowledge. But freedom, the highest aim, comes only by worship of God Himself. Some Orientalists think in expounding the Vedas that even the personal God Himself is a pratika. The personal God may be a pratika, but the pratikas are neither the personal nor impersonal God. They cannot be worshipped as God. So it would be a great mistake if people thought that by worshipping these different pratikas, either as angels or ancestors or Mahatmas or departed spirits, they could ever reach to freedom. At best, they can only reach to certain powers. But God alone can make us free. But because of that, these are not to be condemned. Their worship produces some result. The man who does not understand anything higher may get some power, some enjoyment by the worship of these pratikas. And after a long course of experience, when he will be ready to come to freedom, he will of his own accord give up the pratikas. Of these various pratikas, the most prevalent form is the worship of departed friends. Human nature, personal love for our friends is so strong in us that when they die, we wish to see them once more. clinging on to their forms. We forget that these forms, while living, were constantly changing. And when they die, we think they become constant and that we shall see them so. Not only so, but if I have a friend or a son who has been a scoundrel, as soon as he dies, I begin to think he is the saintliest person in existence. He becomes a god.
See, now this thing is so insightful because they got a lot of persons right now, a lot of persons that might be into a lot of the occult sciences, but it might end up being a stumbling block for them at a certain point because they're not stepping beyond that understanding that they might have garnered in a book or that they might have understood coming in from a religious mindset. These are the steps to move beyond that bracket. These are the steps to help you to step and open your understanding to a whole different level. These steps right here. Watch, Panic just transcended, right? And of course, if you understand what he stood for and his energy, one might tap into that. But ultimately, you are always that, and that was never separate from you. But there's steps to that understanding, and these are some of the directives towards.
There are people in India who, if a baby dies, do not burn it, but bury it and build a temple over it. And that little baby becomes the god of that temple. This is a very prevalent form of religion in many countries, and there are not wanting philosophers who think this has been the origin of all religions. Of course, they cannot prove it. We must remember, however, that this worship of pratikas can never bring us to salvation or to freedom. Secondly, it is very dangerous. The danger is that these pratikas, nearing stages, so far as they lead us on to a further stage, are all right. But the chances are 99 to 1 that we shall stick to the pratikas all our lives. It is very good to be born in a church, but it is very bad to die there. To make it clearer, it is very good to be born in a certain sect and have its training. It brings out our higher qualities. But in the vast majority of cases, we die in that little sect. We never come out or grow. That is the great danger of all these worships of pratikas. One says that these are all the stages which one has to pass through, but one never gets out of them. And when one becomes old, one still sticks to them. If a young man does not go to church, he ought to be condemned. But if an old man goes to church, he also ought to be condemned. He has no business with this child's play anymore. The church should have been merely a preparation for something higher. What business has he anymore with forms and pratikas and all the preliminaries? Book worship is another strong form of this pratika, the strongest form. You find in every country that the book becomes the god. There are sects in my country who believe that God incarnates and becomes man. But even God incarnate as man must conform to the Vedas. And if his teachings do not so conform, they will not take him. Buddha is worshipped by the Hindus, but if you say to them, if you worship Buddha, why don't you take his teachings? They will say, because the Buddhists deny the Vedas. Such is the meaning of book worship. Any number of lies in the name of a religious book are all right. In India, if I want to teach anything new and simply state it on my own authority as what I think, nobody will come to listen to me. But if I take some passage from the Vedas and juggle with it and give it the most impossible meaning, murder everything that is reasonable in it, and bring out my own ideas as the ideas that were meant by the Vedas, all the fools will follow me in a crowd. Then there are men preaching a sort of Christianity that would frighten the ordinary Christian out of his wits, but they say this is what Jesus Christ meant. And many come around them. People do not want anything new if it is not in the Vedas or the Bible. It is a case of nerves. When you hear a new and striking thing, you are startled. It is constitutional. It is much more so with thoughts. The mind has been running in ruts, and to take up a new idea is too much of a strain. So the idea has to be put near the ruts, and then we slowly take it. It is a good policy, but bad morality. Think of the mass of incongruities that reformers and what you call the liberal preachers pour into society today. According to Christian scientists, Jesus was a great healer. According to the spiritualists, he was a great psychic. According to the theosophists, he was a Mahatma. All these have to be deduced from the same text. There is a text in the Vedas which says existence. Sat alone existed. O beloved, nothing else existed in the beginning. Many different meanings are given to the word Sat in this text. The atomists say the word meant atoms, and out of these atoms the world has been produced. The naturalists say it meant nature, and out of nature everything has come. The Shunyavadins say it meant nothing, zero, and out of nothing everything has been produced. The theists say it meant God, and the Advaitins say it was absolute existence, and all refer to the same text as their authority. These are the defects of book worship. But there is, on the other hand, a great advantage in it. It gives strength. All religious sects have disappeared except those that have a book. Nothing seems to kill them. Some of you have heard of the Parsis. They were the ancient Persians, and at one time there were about 100 million of them. The majority of them were conquered by the Arabs and converted to Islam. A handful fled from their persecutors with their book, which is still preserving them. A book is the most tangible form of God. Think of the Jews. If they had not had a book, they would have simply melted into the world. But that keeps them up.
So, levels to the understanding, but not limiting yourself. Levels to you, ultimately, because there's nothing beyond you, right? There's nothing further than you, but you understanding yourself and revealing yourself to yourself. You see, all of these things come in stages, but through our desires, we think that it should come immediate, which it could, but with the understanding that everything separate to you is ultimately somewhat some level of illusion, because ultimately there's only one. Ultimately, divinity is omnipresent. So where would it be right now? Understanding these things, we step through this life in a whole different way. See what I'm saying? So right now I just getting some stretches on. Still dive into certain occult understandings. Still use many forms of divination, as you can see. Just do a quick read for the morning, getting some stretches in. You know, tapping in with you guys and seeing what's popping on your side. Might go out and get some sun just now, get the vitamin D in, and that's about it. Anyways, let's have a conversation about this in the comment section. What do you think? Where is your mindset right now? Have you stepped beyond ancestors, books, gods, and all of these things that limit you from ultimately understanding your present divinity? I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks again for watching. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscription button, buddy, and stay updated with everything that got to do with the real occult sciences. Real occult sciences. God, we ain't playing around. Playtime has long been over. So, thumbs up the content, hit that subscription button, and I'll catch you in the next video.